Hey, it's Sandra. Welcome to another episode of Asexualise, My Asexual Life. This is a place to be for education about asexuality, so subscribe and hit the bell icon right now. Don't forget to give this video a thumb up if you like it as we're going along and share it with a friend. So, not all asexuals like being asexual. And so, what do you do if you're struggling with your asexuality and you really don't like being asexual? This is the topic of our chat show tonight. First of all, if you didn't know who I am, I'm Sandra Bellamy, author of these awesome asexual perspectives and Diary Confessions of a Hyperromantic Asexual book. These are best-selling asexual books available on Amazon. And I've also spoken on various podcasts about asexuality, being on the BBC, etc. So let's get stuck in. So, what do you do if you're an asexual that doesn't like being asexual? So, contrary to popular belief, some people wish they weren't asexual because there are a lot of people that aren't asexual that will question, go, oh, so why do you call yourself asexual? Like, what made you be asexual? And all these really invalidating, condescending questions that asexual have to put up with a lot of the time, right? They don't realize, or they're ignorant to the fact that asexuality is a sexual orientation, and you can't help what sexual orientation you are, right? It's not a choice. So first of all, I think it's really important to note that asexuality is not a choice. So if you're feeling bad about your asexuality, one is your feelings are valid. However you feel is valid. And it's a serious concern that does need to be addressed because your sexual orientation plays a big part in your life, just like your gender does, just like who you are at your core does, right? Who we are as people affects us. And when we have to spend 365 days a year to ourselves, if there's a core component of ourselves that we don't like, then we either have to find a way to accept that about ourselves, come to terms with it and feel happier in that knowledge, or we have to find a way to change it or change our attitude about it. Now, you can't change your sexual orientation. You can't decide, I'm not going to be asexual, because it doesn't work like that. Asexuality is not a choice. It's not the same as abstaining. It's not the same as just refraining from having sex. Asexuality is a sexual orientation that's based on the lack of sexual attraction. So in the main, it means we don't get the need, urge, or want for partnered sexual intercourse. And you can't force something like that to happen. So you need to understand your feelings are valid, and asexuality is not a choice. It's not your fault you're asexual. And you haven't done anything wrong in life. There's nothing that's you've done that's bad, that's made you this way. And there's nothing that you can do to stop yourself being this, because it isn't a choice, right? But you do have a choice to decide how you are going to think about your sexual orientation and feel about it. Now, thoughts and feelings are related. If you have a thought, it will instill a belief or feeling within you. And if you have a feeling, it can conjure up a thought. They kind of work together, right? But your feelings are valid and your sexual orientation you can't change. So we cannot force things to happen that are not natural to happen. And asexuality is natural for people who are genuinely asexual, right? It is a genuine sexual orientation. And I recently had a member of one of my groups feeling bad about being asexual, and I respect their privacy. So I'm not going to go into details, but it reminded me of other asexuals that aren't happy to be asexual. And that's why I'm doing this video, to try and give you some help. So I did say to them that it's not their fault that they are this sexual orientation, because they felt like they'd done something wrong in their life to warrant being asexual, like it was a curse or something. And asexuality is not a curse. I personally love being asexual, but I know not everyone feels that way. Now, if you don't feel very good about your asexuality, if you don't like it, if you don't like being this way, then as you cannot change your sexual orientation, the only way that you can stop yourself from hating your asexuality is to change the way you think about it and perceive asexuality in general and for yourself. We can only change what's within our control. We can't change what's out of our control. It's not within our control and power to change our sexual orientation from asexuality to something else. So the only thing we can do is focus on the changing it of it, as in the changing of our attitude towards it, not the changing of it itself. Asexuality you can't change, right? So what would be the alternative to changing? The alternative is just to ignore it, right? But if you're ignoring it subconsciously, if you don't like being asexual, you hate it, then you're going to be repressing and suppressing those emotions down. And they're not going to go away. They're just going to keep resurfacing and rebubbling up every now and again. There's going to be things that crop up in life that's going to make you feel like, I wished I wasn't asexual again. There's going to be things that happen. So I don't personally think this is a long-term healthy solution. It might be a temporary solution because you might not want to deal with the reality of being asexual, but in the long term, repressing and suppressing your emotions about being asexual will only cause it to bubble up again and again when certain events happen, when certain triggers happen. Maybe you see a heterosexual couple kissing and enjoying being married or something, or in a relationship, and then it triggers you thinking, I'm asexual, I can't have that. But can't you have it? So what I want you to do in order to start making a change towards your thoughts and feelings, emotions about asexuality, I want you to first reflect on what you hate about being asexual. Do you feel restricted in society? Do you feel like society is speaking a foreign language, like you're an alien and you just don't fit in? Do you feel like an outsider? Do you feel like other people have got relationships and you want a relationship, but because you're asexual, you can't get one? Do you feel like you can't experience a full array of sexual pleasure because of your asexuality? Do you feel that I really want to experience sexual attraction, but I can't because I'm asexual? Do you feel repressed that you're asexual? Do you feel like you are wanting to burst out of your asexual shell, but you just can't do it? So if this is something you feel, I want you to know that you are not alone. There are other people that feel this way, and it is valid. All these feelings and emotions are valid, right? Some things that will be helpful for one person will not be helpful for another. So although I'm making suggestions in this video, I'm going to make more suggestions, obviously. I want you to know that I want you to take what you can from it and leave what doesn't work for you. But I would say give different things a go. Give them a try. Because if you're not happy with your asexuality anyway, you haven't really got anything to lose by trying something different. And every time we have to change something, as in change our attitude towards something, our mindset, we have to get out of our comfort zone to make the change and try something different. You've probably heard me mention on this channel before, if we keep doing the same things, then we keep getting the same results. So we stay stuck when we will not be prepared to face our feelings, emotions, and say, okay, I need to make a change now. Only when the pain is greater than our asexuality, and staying the same about it, will we make a change. So in order to make a change, you have to be in so much pain usually that you're like, I can't stand this anymore. I want to make a change. So it's horrible to think like that, but often that's the case. You have to kind of reach a tipping point where I just can't take this anymore. Now, you can't not take being asexual because you have to face the reality you are asexual. Obviously, we can be in denial, which is not healthy. It's not healthy or productive. So what we need to do is face our asexuality head on. We need to reflect on why we don't like our asexuality, and we need to make a constructive, proper list on paper, in a journal, if you like, or piece of paper that you can refer to, and write down all the ways that your asexuality affects you in a negative way. And within each of these points of reference of how these affect you negatively, I want you to then flip it over to the opposite of that. What would be the opposite emotion, thought, or feeling that you would like to have instead of the negative emotion, thought, and feeling? So maybe the negative thought, emotional feeling is, I feel I will never find someone for a relationship because I'm asexual. This is the thought, right? And the feeling and emotion is like, I'm really upset, right? And you feel that because you're asexual, it's stopping you getting a relationship, right? So what evidence have you then got to back up what you believe? And what evidence have you got that actually that is not 100% true? Because in order to challenge our beliefs, our thoughts, our feelings, and emotions, we have to have points of references where there is a different option. There is a different reality. There's something different in the world that contradicts what we believe. So in order to make change in our life, we have to believe there's a different reality out there. There's something different, a different option that we haven't tried before, that we haven't been in the running for because we haven't made shifts within what we're doing. So if your belief is, I can never find someone for a relationship because I'm asexual, I want us to challenge this belief. And we challenge this belief by seeing evidence of this not actually being true for everyone. So there are people who are asexual who are actually in relationships, both with other asexuals and both with heterosexuals or other sexuals, for example. Therefore, as a blanket statement, I can't find someone for a relationship because I'm asexual is not true in the sense that it is a possibility that could still happen for you because it's happened to other people, right? So there exists in the world people right now that are asexuals married to other asexuals. I know two young couples in the UK who are both asexual with asexuals. They're married to each other. And as far as I know, they're both sex repulsed asexuals as well. So I don't have a relationship, but it doesn't mean to say that no asexuals can get a relationship, right? And it doesn't mean to say that you can't get a relationship. Maybe you can't at the moment, but if we tell ourselves we can never find someone for a relationship, then we'll never find someone for a relationship because what we believe actually happens for us. So in order to change our mindset and our beliefs, we have to see a crack in our summarization, in our conviction. We have to see that there's a different possibility out there, even if it's not in our current reality for ourselves. We have to know that it does exist, that some asexuals do have relationships and marry other asexuals, and some do get into relationships and marry people that are not asexual, that are sexuals, right? Does being asexual make it harder to find someone for a relationship? Yes, I'm not going to deny that. It does make it harder. However, there are some people that don't find it that hard. They meet someone and they know that person is right for them to be in a relationship with, and they do end up living happily ever after. That reality exists in this reality that we're all experiencing together now. So it's not that it's not possible because it's someone else has done it. If someone else can do it, there's no reason why you can't do it. However, we are all unique and we all have our own nuances, right? And some of us might not find the right person for a relationship for us. So if we have to face that reality, then we have to sit with that, right? Just suppose we don't find someone for a relationship, right? Is that because of our asexuality? Or is that because of our personality, our lifestyle, and our actual personal requirements besides our asexuality? So you have to look at all these other aspects, not just blame your sexual orientation for the fact you've not got a relationship. If what you're looking for is very specific, if what your needs are very specific, It might be looking for that needle in a haystack, regardless of your asexuality. Just your asexuality could complicate things further, right? So we have to know that it is possible, just like it is for sexuals, that you might not find someone for a relationship. There are people out there, heterosexuals right now, who are single and they can't find someone for a relationship either. I want you to understand that it's not just asexuals that find it difficult to date these days and get a committed relationship. It is very difficult on the dating scene for any sexuality. And yes, it does add a layer of complexity when you're asexual. There's no denying that. I have been on dating sites online for like 10 years and I still haven't found the right person for me. That doesn't mean to say some other asexual won't find the right person for them. And I know my needs are very nuanced, which makes it harder for me, much, much harder. Does it mean to say that I'm never going to find my guy? It doesn't mean to say I'm never going to find my guy, but does it mean to say that if I don't find my guy, I'm going to like not enjoy my life? No, because I have learned ways of being that whether I'm in a relationship or I'm not in a relationship, and actually so far not in a relationship has worked out better for me, that I'm still happy. So if the problem is a relationship and you're not happy being by yourself because you want to be in a relationship and your asexuality is stopping you doing that, you then have to come to terms with the fact that what if, yes, it doesn't happen that you find someone for a relationship and you do have to spend the rest of your life on your own being a single person. And so when we come to this situation, we then have to face this head on. This might be triggering, this might cause upset and pain, but we have to face it. If we face it and we deal with this instead of suppressing and repressing how we really feel about it and putting it off for another day and avoiding it, we can sit with it and say, okay, if this were to happen and I was to be single forever, how would I live my best single life while I'm here to live it? What would I do because I'm single that people who are in relationships can't do? Right? What would I do? So we have to look to be making our lives as good as possible while we're single. We don't need to be waiting for someone else to save us. We have to save ourselves. And this means we have to do work on ourselves. People don't want to work on themselves. They'd rather push things down, avoid and ignore. But it's no good. We all have to work on ourselves in this world. It's hard work. Life is hard work, right? You don't want to hear that, I know, but I'm telling you the truth. So we then have to work on ourselves. So we have to say, okay, pretend we're not going to find anyone for a relationship. Like the worst case scenario, if this is your worst nightmare, think of the worst case scenario. Because if someone does come along then for a relationship, then that'll be better, right? If that's what you want. But you might get so used to being single, you actually don't want to be in a relationship then. Anyway, you need to focus then on what's going to make your single life good. Like, why are you not happy being single at the moment? Like, what is so painful for you that you blame your asexuality for making you single, not being able to get a relationship, and you're feeling so bad about it? So, what are the actual feelings of being alone? Is that it? You are alone and you're feeling lonely. So, you could be feeling lonely. You could be feeling isolated. You could be feeling like you've got no one understands you. You could be feeling like you've got no one to talk to you. These are genuine difficulties, right? That a lot of us experience. These are genuine difficulties. They're very valid feelings. And it is hard sometimes. We live in such an online connected world, yet a lot of people are more disconnected from each other as human beings in society than ever before. This is why actually a lot of beverages, places that do drinks and food places do so well these days. A lot of the time, a lot of places shut down, but the majority of food places and cafes keep opening up everywhere. Why? Because people actually do want to socialize in person. And this is proof, again, dispelling the myth that people like don't want to socialize, don't want to interact. There are people out there right now around the world that are in cafes and bars and restaurants, even sat on their own because they want someone to come along and start talking to them. They want to socialize. They want to be around people, even people that are introverts, they do usually need some connection, because one of the 5 ways to well-being is to be connected to other people. This doesn't mean just texting people. This means actually in-person contact and communication, socialization, right? And yes, people have different degrees of socialization, but if you're an introvert, it doesn't matter whether you're asexual or not asexual. That's your introversion. That's got nothing to do with you being asexual. That's to do with you being an introvert. And if you don't like socializing, well, maybe you have to work on that. That's something that you need to change a bit. Like, okay, I don't like socializing, but can I stand half an hour of socializing? You know, what small increments can you do to make sure you change your mindset and change your life? If we don't change our mindset about these things, the same thing keeps going round and round in our head. And it's not a nice life if we sit there hating our asexuality when it's going to be with us for the rest of our lives. This is not a good thing to be thinking, right? It's like if you hate yourself, it's not good, because you're with yourself 365 days a year. And yes, I hated myself years ago. I didn't like myself. I didn't like my life. I didn't like my own company. I couldn't stand it. I had depression for years. So it's not like I don't understand where that comes from. And it is hard. You get into a spiral and a loop of feeling and thinking the same thing. And you have to get yourself out of it. Like, even if you go to therapy, which can really help, there's only you that can take the actions to actually get yourself out of it, which means getting out of your comfort zone and doing scary shit, really. There's no 2 ways about it. You know what I mean? You have to, if you have social anxiety, which I did for years, you have to force yourself, not anyone else, but force yourself to go out in social situation. The only way you overcome social anxiety is little by little interactions socially, and by getting out of your comfort zone and making that happen. But it took me years. Hello, Jonathan. Nice to see you. Lots of love in chat. It took me years to get over social anxiety, right? It's not an easy overnight thing. None of this is an overnight thing, by the way. I'm not saying you can click your fingers and all of a sudden you'll magically feel much better, because if you've had ingrained into you, we're talking about on this video, particularly chat show tonight, we're talking about if we're not happy about being asexual, right? If it's been ingrained into you for years that you don't like your asexuality, you blame your asexuality for having a bad life, no friends, no relationship, feeling crap about yourself, right? That is not just going to go away overnight. It's not going to be an overnight fix. You have to gradually work on all the aspects that you are blaming your asexuality for as the problem that is in your life at the moment, that's causing you the most amount of problems. You have to work out every aspect. Like, what is it? Like I've said about the relationship scenario, right? And the fact that it's hard to get a relationship, or you believe you can't get any relationship if you're asexual. And I said we have to look for evidence to counteract this. And by understanding and knowing there are people out there who are asexual in relationships with other asexuals and in relationships with sexuals, we know this isn't true. It's not true that no one who's asexual can't, you know, that basically no one can get a relationship if they're asexual. It isn't true. So for every problem and difficulty you're having because of your asexuality, you have to address it one by one and saying, okay, how can I flip this around to feel better about it? What's the alternative? What would be the opposite of this? Right? If it's I'm socially isolated because of my asexuality, you can flip that around and say, because I'm asexual, I need to find people like me who are also asexual so I don't feel so isolated. Right? This doesn't mean to say you sit behind your computer waiting for some other asexual people to turn up on your doorstep. It doesn't work like that. You have to go out of your way to specifically be in groups, asexual online groups, and in communities, and go to physical meetups in order to make those connections, in order to stop yourself feeling so socially isolated. You have to do the work. You have to physically shift your body to go and be able to do that. You can do online, but you also need to go to physical stuff as well. This means traveling. If you don't like traveling, then find methods of ways of traveling that you would be okay with. Or put your headphones in your ears if you don't want to talk to anyone. Put a cap on if you don't want people to see your hair. Put a hoodie on if you don't want people to see around you, if you've got social anxiety. Use different tools like that to help you. The only way you're going to be able to travel if you've got social anxiety a lot of the time is by, unfortunately, doing scary stuff and getting out of your comfort zone and going on like whichever one you think's best, a bus or a train. And by going on these, a train tends to have more space, right? So a bus can be very crowded. You're boxed in more in some ways, unless it's a double decker. But a train can give you bigger seating capacity. And if it's like a journey, for example, where you get up really early because there's less people on the train then than rush hour, for example, and you find a carriage that's quite quiet, you can go at the back of the carriage and stuff like this. You can think of ways to help yourself to get out of your comfort zone, to be in situations you wouldn't usually be in, to help yourself as much as possible. This is not an overnight fix, right? I know I know someone who's got social anxiety, but over the years that I've known them, they have got better and better at being able to be on public transport, even though even now they still have social anxiety, right? Because they think about the destination, they put their headphones on, they look out the window, distract their mind, do other things. And if you've got social anxiety, right, one of the worst things you can do if you're socially anxious is to walk down a street and start looking at everyone, right? Because some people with social anxiety, they get so socially awkward, they're looking at everyone else because they think everyone's looking at them. No one gives a shit about you. I hate to say it, but no one gives a shit about who you are. A lot of the time, you walk down the street, they don't know who you are. They don't give a shit. They're in their own heads, in their own life, in their own minds. You have to stop thinking that everyone thinks you're so special, that you've got everyone looking at you and staring at you. Do you know what I mean? I don't mean that in a bad sense, because everyone's special in their own right, because they're a unique being and they're a beautiful being. But if we think everyone's staring at us, it actually is something that our ego is getting mixed up in, thinking that everyone's looking at us, when usually people are in their own world. I can be somewhere and I can start talking really loudly and people just ignore me. It's like I'm in the background. It's like I don't even exist. I've tried doing this. I used to do it in my old job. I used to be like, oh, well, people are not even paying attention. I could be talking like this and they don't even notice me. They might be ignoring me, which is fine by me. Do you know what I mean? But one of the worst things you can do is if you're going down the high street is looking at, because it makes you look like you're dodgy and up to weird stuff. It makes you look awkward. And then people do look at you and then you're like, see, I told you people are giving me weird looks. But they're looking at you weirdly because they see that you're being awkward and weird looking at them. So when you are in like a high street, right, look at your immediate, where you immediately have to go, and the perimeter, like this area here, right? Because you have to look where you're walking and you have to look either side of you, but you do not need to be going up like this and going all around scanning the whole place, right? When I'm out, I'm not stood up like this, walking around going, hello, you know, like this, scanning the whole place. Right? It's like peripheral vision. I have where I'm going in my destiny, if you like, in my direction. I'm going to like Tesco's, for example. I'm moving towards Tesco's. There's a pavement coming up and a road. I then have to stand on the pavement and look both ways, right? But I only have to look like this far. I don't have to put my head out and think what's right down the high street, miles down there, what's back there, what's side there. I only have to be in the immediate vicinity. And I'm not going like a giraffe and looking all around me, right? So don't start looking around you because you overwhelm yourself with tons of people. Just look at the smallest amount of people you can look at to get away with walking in safety. Right. I'm very conscious, though, because I live in a city. I'm very conscious of safety. So if I see some people that are on the opposite side of the road that I might want to walk over to, and I see they're dodgy, they're like drunk or druggy or start mouthing off, then I will specifically avoid them and stay on the pace I'm in and take a detour if I need to, because I don't want to be involved and mixed up in that. Right. And if you are socially awkward, you could be seen as more vulnerable and people might pick on you. So you don't want that either. You want to be seen as confident and strong, even if you don't feel like it inside, because this will help protect you. But you don't want to be looking all around you. You don't need to be looking all around you. You just need to be looking your immediate vicinity where you're going and making sure you're safe on the road, right? Because looking around at other people looking at you like this, it freaks people out. They're like, well, what are you doing? just just relax, relax and act normal. I know that if you've got social anxiety, you're not really feeling normal and you're feeling like, oh my god, right? But we have to do it. And how else do you start doing stuff like this? And when you go out, go out to a meetup group, try and get with a group of people that you've got something in common with, so you've got stuff to talk about. Now when you go to meetup groups, right, if you're socially awkward, you would lean into the fact that, oh, I don't want to talk to anyone because I'm socially awkward. But not talking to anyone makes you look more awkward to other people, and actually makes you feel more isolated because you're cutting yourself off. You're cutting yourself off from other people. So it's better to go in there thinking, I'm anxious, but I'm going to actually speak to someone because I'm anxious. And I don't want to be in this silence and looking around me and looking weird, or down like this. And because people actually pay more attention to if you're a person who's like, it's like maybe down and like this, and you're on a table of people that are all looking at each other and smiling or talking, you're like this, people are going to notice you're cut off from them. So we have to open our body language up to people and speak to people, even if it's scary. The only way you overcome social anxiety is by doing these things. I wish I could tell you that it isn't like this, but it is like this. So in order to overcome difficulties of your asexuality, you need to discern what is actual problems with your asexuality and what is just your personality, the way you are, and the difficulties you've got in your life besides asexuality. So try and separate what's actually a problem because of your asexuality and what's actually a difficulty or problem in your life because of the way you are personally, right? Because that's a very big distinction. If you're socially awkward, you still be socially awkward even if you're not asexual. If you're introverted, you still be introverted even if you weren't asexual. Do you see what I mean? These are skills that you have to learn in order to make progress in your life. And they're not easy skills to learn, because if you're socially awkward, you've been wired that way for years. That's how you're made up for years, and you have to go against your own physiology, your own brain, your own way of being in order to change, because you're not going to change if you accept the way you are. If the way you are is not making you miserable and you're happy being socially awkward and you don't care, it doesn't bother you, then it doesn't matter. But if these things are making you unhappy and sad and miserable, then you have to change them in order to get a different result to make yourself happier, right? Some people don't mind being socially awkward, or that maybe they got wired that way, so they think there's nothing different and they can't change. Everyone can actually change, even if they think they can't. But if they think they can't and they tell themselves they can't, they won't, because there's no incentive for them to change. There's nothing telling them they can change. They're just blanketly saying, I can't do this. So they're stopping themselves from doing it. Right. And I know this is probably sounding difficult to you, but I'm saying it because I want to help you. You don't have to listen to me. You can think I'm talking a little rubbish, but I did used to be so socially anxious. I only used to be able to be one-to-one with a person or on my own. I used to be the person that was looking at the wall, or that was just like, if it was a group, I'd just go and talk to one person. But sometimes that's what you have to do. If you're in a group, to start off with, you have to just pick one person out that group that you feel comfortable enough to talk to, until you get used to talking to more people. And you have to kind of force yourself to talk to more people. It sounds bad, the word force, but otherwise you let your old beliefs and your current situation dictate your life. You let your current way of being carry on being like that, like a roller coaster that won't stop. The only way you stop yourself being the way you are is to interrupt your pattern of being and change that pattern over time with incremental steps. And it's hard because we do a lot of the time get into a stage where we think we can't change because it's too difficult, too hard, and there's no way you can do it. But there are often circumstances that will come in your life, and whether you like it or not, it will make you make a change in some way. And being forced by an external factor is a lot harder sometimes than changing ourselves on purpose. I found that when I started making change happen for me, rather than change just happening to me, I became a lot more in control of my life and a lot more empowered to be myself. So make sure that you separate what is the difficulties and problems you're having with yourself and the way you are in your lifestyle, and the way you like to be, and what is actually an asexual problem, because you might find that more of the problems are not related to your asexuality, they're actually related to the fact it's just the way you are at the moment in this present time. Because there's people that are socially awkward and they're definitely not asexual, right? So it's not just asexuals that are socially awkward. There's a lot of people that are socially awkward, and it can be really hard, very, very, very extremely difficult to change that, but it can be done. So we need to look for evidence of other people doing what we want to do, because if other people can do it, there is no reason why we can't do it, even if we're not that person. It means there's a different possibility, there's a different reality that we are not used to having. I have to think this way in order to change myself and my life. I have to know there's a different reality. I'm currently going through this in my own life with different aspects, right? Because I I want to make friends that more, not my best friend I've got, he's amazing. But in terms of making some other friends, I want to make some other friends that are on my vibe, that appreciate my high energy, which can be quite challenging, right? That my high energy has got nothing to do with my asexuality. That's to do with my personality. And so, if I wasn't happy with my high energy, I would need to change that. But I am happy with my high energy. Therefore, I need to change the people I hang around with. So if there's a situation in your life where you are actually happy with yourself, if you question yourself, like, am I happy being this way? And it's just people around me cannot accept me being that way, and they don't like me being that way. Obviously, if you're unhealthy, if you're doing something that's rude to people, if you're hurting people physically, mentally, emotionally, and especially if it's intentional, then you do need to change those things, right? But if it's something that you actually enjoy being, say you're a quiet person, right? You like being quiet, you like being in the countryside, you like having peace, right? If you enjoy being that way, then there's no reason why you can't continue to be that way and find other people that enjoy that too, right? That you might be able to make friends with, and they come over to your house and you literally just sit on chairs, basking in the sun, and you don't say much to each other, right? If that's what you like, then find those people that resonate with you, because you need to discern what is it about your asexuality, for example, that you don't like, obviously, but is it to do with your asexuality, or is it to do with how you actually are regardless of your asexuality? And so if it's a case of you like peace and quiet, that's a character trait, that's a preference and character trait. So you need to find someone else that resonates with that. If you're an asexual that feels isolated, then what is the counteractive thing to that? The opposite is you want to feel like you're included in the asexual community, probably. That's the opposite to that. I feel if you feel isolated with your asexuality, you want to feel included with your asexuality. You need to find people, groups that it could be, there's lots of different groups in the asexual community that you personally resonate with. What someone finds great in a group, another person might hate in a group, right? One person might just love being in a group that's constantly active, that's constantly posting updates every single day, 10 times a day, 20 times a day. They might like being in a chat in Facebook that's constantly going. They will spend hours in chat, right? And there might be another person that does not want to be chatting in asexual groups, because it takes them away from their work. They get constant notifications on their phone about all the chat messages. They can't get on with any of their work. It's distracting them from their own projects, and it's quite infuriating them. And there might be some asexuals that just prefer to have one or two posts a day and respond to them, right? If you're an asexual that wants to make friends, ask yourself, do you need to make other friends that are asexual? Or do you need to make just other friends that accept your asexuality? So either way, you feel accepted and included in conversations as you are. You have to make that discernment. No one can do that for you. If you feel that you'll be more comfortable around asexuals, then you have to ask yourself, how can I make sure that I'm interacting with more asexuals. Interacting means you need to be proactive. If you're in Facebook groups and you're thinking, God, this group's quiet in here, what are you doing yourself to make it not quiet? Why aren't you posting? Hey, today I had this great cake. You know, what do you think? What's your favorite cake to the rest of the members of the group? Post a picture below. Right? This is my pet dog. Right? His name's Oscar. Can you show me pictures of your dog? Right? Where's your favorite place to go walking? Where do you live? I live in the UK, blah, blah, blah. You can start conversations in any asexual groups. You can join in chat in the comments. You can comment on other people's comments, and then you can ask, is it okay if I message you privately? Oh, and because I'm looking to make some more asexual connections. Join physical asexual meetups. You might be like, I just want an asexual meetup in my city. But you could be waiting 5 years or no year. It might never happen. 5 years or I was going to say 0 years, because it might never happen. So you have to be willing to travel, get out of your comfort zone, stay in a hotel, stay in a B&B, go to a different city or a different town and think, okay, I'm going to go to this meetup. I'm going to have a backup plan in case I don't feel comfortable at this meetup. I'm going to have a hotel nearby. So if I get to the meetup and I spend half an hour there and I feel excluded, I feel weird, I don't get on with people, I have got my hotel to go back to. I could give it another half an hour. I could make an hour. I could try and engage in conversation. I can talk to people. But if I'm feeling like it's not good for me, I'm going to leave and say I'm going back to my hotel. I could have a meal at the hotel. I could sit and watch the beach if your hotel's near the beach, or you could go explore the area, right? Have a backup plan so you don't feel trapped at a meetup or something like that. But don't sit around waiting for everything to land on your lap where you are. Be prepared to travel to go and meet other asexuals. Start your own online asexual meetups. There's no reason why you can't start your own asexual meetups. I actually have got 2 courses on my Asexuality Academy that you can buy. That I did a whole training course. 2 ones. One is how to arrange an online asexual meetup, and then there's another one that is how to arrange an in-person meetup. But if you buy the how to arrange an in-person meetup, you get the online one free. But the how to arrange an in-person meetup is it's well over 60 videos. I think it's like 72 videos or something. It took me 6 months to do it. So it's not a cheap course, but it's really good. It's got everything you need, all the different sites and how you message people, how you get people to meetups and everything. Because I've organized asexual meetups for years. It's only since last year I haven't organized any group ones because I've been busy doing online education stuff and the a lot of training stuff myself. So you can go and do this stuff, right? And if you're not doing it, no one's going to do it for you. You've got that option there. But if you want to improve your asexual life and improve how you feel about your asexuality, then you have to take the actions to make that happen. No one can do it for you. And resigning yourself to the fact, oh, I hate my asexuality, I'm just going to continue hating it. It's like hating yourself, because your asexuality is part of who you are. And hating yourself for years, when you've got to live with yourself for the rest of your life, it's not going to be a particular pleasant thing to think about. So I would encourage you and urge you, for your own good, to work on the things that you do not like about yourself and your life and your asexuality. So if you think your asexuality is holding you back from socializing, why? Why is it holding you back from socializing? You can still speak to people that aren't asexual. You can still talk about your asexuality. I still talk about my asexuality. Do you think everyone likes that? Probably not, but I don't care. Why should I hide who I am? I have no reason to hide who I am. I'm proud of being asexual, but obviously if you're not proud of being asexual, then that's harder. But are you not proud of being asexual because you're ashamed of what people might think of you? Because then you've got a problem in the fact you're worried about what other people think about you. And you're not standing your own personal power of who you truly are. You're trying to please others, which means you've got difficulties in people pleasing, which means then you have those areas of your life to work on. How can I stop being a people pleaser? How can I say things to people, be in my own personal power. And if they don't like it, that's okay. I'm okay with that. I don't need everyone to like me. I don't need everyone to give me an ego boost telling me how wonderful I am, because not everyone's going to like you. So you have to accept the fact not everyone's going to like you and still be you. Be your authentic self in your personal power. It might help to actually talk to other asexuals. Obviously, ones that don't like their asexuality might be helpful for people to relate to you, but that's not going to help you overcome the fact you don't like being asexual. Talk to people who do like being asexual and find out why they like being asexual, and see if there's any way that you can possibly think like they think. This is not to people please them, but this is to help you to feel better and think in a more positive way about your own asexuality. You don't have to take on board what they say. You could just be a silent observer thinking, okay, that's the way they feel, but not the way I feel. But if you can start to see that other people have different thinking and there are positives to asexuals, or other people see positives, then it's not like there's no positives that don't exist, because other people believe there's positives and other people have positives about it. So, there are lots. I love being asexual. Why do I love being asexual? One is I've always loved to be unique anyway, before I found I'm asexual. I like to be different. I don't like to be the same as everyone else. It really annoys me if someone says, oh, you're a woman like every other woman. That really pisses me off. I really get pissed off with that. But if someone says to me, oh, you're weird, I'm like, thank you. I'm different. Great. Because I stand out. I'm not the same as everyone else. Right? They try to insult me. It doesn't insult me. It actually feels like good. I'm not like everyone else. Right? Even my mum calls me weird for being asexual. It doesn't bother me. I'm just like, well, it's normal for some people to be asexual. It doesn't stop me being asexual. If she wants to say I'm weird, that's fine. She can say I'm weird. It doesn't bother me. I'm in my personal power. When you're in your own personal power, people can't take that away from you, or not take it away from you very easily, because you're confident in who you are. So a lot of the time, it's a confidence issue with asexual. You're not confident in being asexual because you think about all these problems it brings you. But like I said, you need to discern what are the problems, because your actual asexuality is causing the problems, and what is it that's problematic for you that's got nothing to do with your asexuality, meaning whether you're asexual or not, you'd still have those difficulties, because you can't blame asexuality if you would still have those difficulties even if you weren't asexual. And it is true that globally people have difficulties with relationships in general. That's why there's so many relationship and dating coaches. That's why there's so many dating apps everywhere. That's why there's so many divorces. That's why there's so many people cheating. That's why there's so many failed marriages, right? Because people have difficulties in relationships. They're not easy for anyone. They're tough. Healthy relationships. There's plenty of dysfunctional relationships out there, but healthy relationships are very hard. Why? Because you have to deal with conflict. You have to speak about things that might cause conflict and resolve the conflict between two people who come from different mindsets, different backgrounds, different upbringings. That is not easy. But it's the only way to actually have a healthy relationship. And that's hard. It's something I'm having to learn more and more. I'm having to push myself out of my comfort zone to tackle things face on, head on, about my needs not being met. This is new to since I've joined Matthew Hussey's Love Life Club. If you don't know who he is, Matthew Hussey, you can look him up on YouTube. He's the world's #1 dating and confidence coach on YouTube and in the world, basically. And I'm in his Love Life Club. I paid for a year's membership, right? And I'm learning stuff there that's hard for me. I'm having to get out of my comfort zone and do stuff that I don't usually do. And I'm having to try and speak up for my own needs more, because I'm not going to go into all the background of everything in my life, but I have not been advocating for my needs in the past some of the time, because I wasn't taught this type of stuff, right? This is like relationship skills. I wasn't taught. I wasn't taught to value my own needs. I wasn't taught that my own needs matter, that my own needs are important, right? And I just thought I have to accept everyone the way they are, however they are. And now I'm finding, actually, in Matthew Hussey's Love Life Club, that actually you don't just have to accept the way things are and the way people are. If you're not happy with something and you are having some type of relationship with that person, whether it's a friendship, a working relationship, a romantic relationship, you have to be able to express your needs in a way that is healthy to get your point across of what you're finding hard or what you're confused about or what you don't understand. If you want a behavior change, you have to speak about the behavior you don't like of what they're doing or not doing and bring it to someone's attention. And you don't know what's going to happen with that. You don't know how the other person's going to react. This is scary stuff. This is stuff that's way out of my comfort zone that I'm doing this year because I need to work on this stuff. And I'm seeing people now, which I wouldn't have seen this before with other people because I was like this. I'm starting to see now when people say, oh, I want this to happen with people, but they're not giving me this. So I'll just keep quiet about it and won't say anything. That's actually the worst thing you can do. Your needs are never going to be met unless you tell people your needs. And people think other people should be mind readers. So, for example, if you are going to someone with something and you want to tell someone something, you need to say to them, I'm just going to say something to you now. I need a listening ear, or I need to vent, or I need a hug, right? Or I need advice, because a lot of people will automatically give you advice if you come to them. If you've come to them, with a problem, a lot of people's instincts are to give you advice because they think, oh, you've got a problem. I want to help you solve it because I don't want to see you in pain, right? But you might not need their advice. It might be advice you really don't want to hear. It might be advice that you've tried before. And it might be just the fact you don't want someone to give you advice like you're doing something wrong. All you want in that moment is to vent and for someone to understand you're upset about something. So then you need to express the fact that, hey, I need to tell you something. I need to vent right now. I'm really upset. I just need a listening ear, someone who understands me. I'm not looking for advice, because how is a person supposed to know you're not looking for advice unless you tell them? People are not mind readers, so you have to get better at having crystal clear communication. And I've noticed something I used to do was I'd be like, if a person didn't give me the response I want or that was good for me, and it was someone who I felt I could have an open conversation with safely, then I might just be like, all right, I'll have to put up with that. That's the way it is. I'll have to sort it out myself. But actually, that doesn't get you anywhere in life. It doesn't make you progress with that person or that situation. So you then have to open up a dialogue about that, right? So I think it's important that if you've got people around you that you feel you're having difficulties with because you're asexuality and talking about it, then you need to still bring up and say, hey, I've noticed when I talk about my asexuality, you seem to get uncomfortable with it. Can we talk about that? I've noticed that I haven't really said to you the fact about I am actually asexual. And sometimes when you spoke about, teaming me up with, pairing me up with someone, or why aren't you in a relationship now, or why aren't you having kids now, when you ask me a question like that, it makes me feel very upset because it makes me feel like there's something wrong with me when there's not. I just asexual. I lack sexual attraction. I don't like conventional relationships. It's not my thing if it isn't, right? So we need to be having open, honest communication and realize that it's okay to be asexual and to express our asexuality. Don't repress it and suppress it. If someone else is not comfortable with that, that's not your fault. That's on them. That's their issues and difficulties, and it's not yours, right? So we need to find people around us that support our asexuality, that make us feel good about being asexual, or at least accept our asexuality, and we need to try and address each of the issues. So if you feel you can't date because you're asexual, how could you change that? Can you be in dating groups for asexuals? And are you being a passive participant in those dating groups for asexuals? Or are you actually being active and going out of your way to post content in the group, to talk to more people? The more you post, the more people will see your post. Warren, I love being ace, me. And yes, problem if they have it's their problem if they have a problem with us. Thank you, Warren. Yeah, I love being asexual too. So if a person's out there listening to this right now and they're thinking, well, what are the benefits of being asexual? There's a lot of benefits. One is you can think more logically about relationships. In theory, if you're a hyper-romantic asexual like me, this probably doesn't apply so much because my hyper-romanticism does take over my brain sometimes, and it's not good. I know that about myself. There is some things about my asexuality that I don't think's good, but I have to accept that I am asexual and see if I can improve. Like on my hyper-romanticism, for example, I am a hyper-romantic asexual. And so now I'm doing Matthew Hussey's Love Life courses and coaching. I then have to stop myself when I'm attracted to a guy and say, hey, how is this guy behaving towards me? How is this guy talking to me? What is this guy actually saying? And what am I projecting that I wished he would be? So I have to ask myself these questions. I have to try and work through my hyper-romanticism and be more logical. So that's something I'm working on, see? So we have to work with different aspects of our asexuality. There might be some parts of our asexuality we really don't like or we find really difficult. So we have to find ways of managing those better. We might never fully like it, or we may never fully think it's great for us. So we have to find better ways of managing those. Warren, what's hyper? What? I'm a hyper romantic. Did I talk too fast? Because you've asked me a question that I don't know that word. I'm a hyper romantic. Hyper romantic. Oh yeah. It's because I was talking fast. Hyper romantic. I talk fast. Sometimes I do actually put two words together because I speak so quickly. I say the word confident a lot, which I made up. I think I should just have my own dictionary. Confident is a cross between the words comfortable and confident. But sometimes when I've been talking, I've just said, "Oh, I'm confident with that." And I'm like inventing new words out of nowhere, putting two words together so I can speak more quickly and cover two words in one. Because my brain just thinks quite quickly and I talk quite quickly. So comfortable and confident, rather than me saying I'm comfortable and confident right now, I'm confident. Me, but I try not to say that, but sometimes I do. So you're quite right to ask me. I'm a hyper romantic asexual. And for me, that does cause issues and difficulties because my senses go out the window. My sensible senses go out the window. I get very I don't experience any platonic attraction. So this is a huge difficulty for me in my life because I'm a hyper romantic who experiences zero platonic attraction, zero sexual attraction, but has high arousal levels and likes Indian guys who are younger than me, basically. This is not easy to be asexual when you like all those things. So I do realize there are difficulties being asexual. I do realize it's not easy. So, but whether I was asexual or not, I'd probably still be a hyper romantic. So the hyper romanticism is an issue whether I'm asexual or not, because obviously there could be a hyper romantic sexual somewhere, for example. But I'm a hyper romantic asexual. And so that does pose a lot of difficulties for me. But I love being asexual in the sense that I love being different. I like being asexual in the fact that I'm an asexual that doesn't have sex these days. I had it in the past because I thought I had to as part of a relationship before what's expected of me in a relationship before I actually discovered I'm asexual in 2014. But I love the fact I'm not having sex, so I don't get any sexually transmitted diseases, sexually transmitted infections. I think that I can think sometimes more. I have the capacity to sometimes think more logically in terms of relationships. I can talk about sex in a more educational way because I'm not involved in sex directly myself. So I actually find it easier nowadays to talk about sex than I did when I was actually in sexual relationships years ago because I'm not actively involved in that anymore. So for me, it's more of a clinical diagnosis of sexual situations. And my asexuality doesn't stop me actually being passionate. I'm very, very sensual, passionate girl, but just with my clothes on and not having sex and not being like to be touched in certain places. And actually, because of my asexuality, I'm more aware of my body now. I'm more aware of my own needs now, of what physically does feel good to me and what doesn't feel good to me, because I'm more self-aware now. I understand that I have higher levels of arousal, zero sexual attraction, which I would never have found out unless I found out I'm asexual. I probably wouldn't have even found out I was a hyper romantic. Like, I knew I was romantic before, but I didn't actually know I was a hyper romantic until I discovered my asexuality. But I don't think I would have not been hyper romantic if I'd not found out I'm asexual. But because I found out I'm asexual, it brought it to conscious awareness. Because when you're asexual, if you lean into that, you then begin to analyze different aspects of your life. So you can use asexuality as a tool for analyzing yourself more and understanding your own body, your own emotional needs more, your own mental needs more, your own physical needs more. Because if you're in a group of people, right, and everyone's talking about sex and you're not actually interested in that, they're probably not the right people for you to be around, right? So you then need to find out about other people that all are more relevant and interesting to you. So maybe go and join groups that don't really talk about sex. Maybe join a pottery class or a walking, hiking group, or I don't know. I was going to say art class, but some of them have nudity in it. And if you're nudity repulsed, then you might not like that. I'm nudity repulsed. And so, you find groups that resonate with you more. Like, if you are an asexual person who didn't really understand their own body, what they like and don't like in a relationship, because maybe you just had a relationship and it was expected of you to do touching and stuff, and you didn't really have time to think about it, then you can reflect on, like, what actually do I like myself to be touched at all? Do I like to touch myself? Do I like other people to touch me? How do I feel about this? So you can use it as a self-exploration tool. And you can use it as a way to foster more connections with people that are like-minded. And you can use it as a way to assess who is going to be a genuine friend and good connection to you. Because if you're making new friends, bring your asexuality up quickly, bring it to the forefront quickly. Because if someone is turned off by your asexuality and they don't even want to be connected to you because of your asexuality, then they're not the right people for you to be around, because you can't be yourself around them. So therefore, you can cross them off your list of friends, possible friends, early on, rather than spending 6 months or a year of your life listening to stuff about sex that you're not even interested in, and then saying, oh, I'm asexual, or them finding it out somehow, or you just repressing and suppressing and feeling miserable for years of your life, right? Speak your mind and say, hey, I'm asexual, just to let you know what, if you want to talk about sexual orientations, I'm asexual. Warren, I just think some people are stunning, but I'd never fancy them or do anything sexual, even though they're stunning. Oh, that's nice. Yeah, I find people stunning too, Warren. Well, guys, not women. I find guys, well, I think they're hot. I mean, some people are like, how can you say the word hot if you're asexual? Because I find guys aesthetically hot. Some guys, not all guys, usually younger foreign guys, clean shaven. But I don't actually want to have sex with them. But I personally do want to do something to them, and that's snog their face off. Because I'm a hyper romantic and a hyper kisser as well. I have never ever met a hyper kisser in my life. I've met guys that can kiss me for a long time, but that's because they're kissing me specifically. But I've never ever met a person who identifies as a hyper kisser at all. I've met a few people on my channel who have commented they're a hyper romantic as well, but I have never ever seen anyone actually say they're a hyper kisser. And by that I mean I can kiss literally for hours, pretty much non-stop. I have to stop to go to the toilet, that's about it, or have a snack quickly for like a minute or two. But you know what I mean, I can kiss for hours and not get bored, like for 4 hours or more. I know hypersexuals who can have sex for 2 or 3 hours. I don't know how they do that, and their bits don't drop off personally, but there we go. But I can do kissing for over 4 hours and I don't get bored. I can do go longer than that. So I'm a hyper kisser, and I don't know anyone in the world. There's going to be some, isn't there? I haven't met one yet. I've met no one. There might be guys who say like, "Oh, I'm like kissing a lot too," but they don't actually use the term hyper kisser. Most guys who actually actively think about kissing for a long time, about 45 minutes is usually their limit that they would think in their mind if someone was saying what's the longest time you can kiss for. But, I know guys can kiss longer than that because they kiss me for longer. But it's usually me who just would be able to keep that going a lot more, if you know what I mean. So, um, it's really important that you use asexuality as a way to understand yourself better, to link and connect and communicate with the right people in your life, such as like other asexuals in asexual groups, on asexual websites, on asexual dating apps, social networking apps for asexuals. It's important that you use asexuality to explore what you like about your body, what maybe you don't like about your body. I've trained myself to look at myself naked in the mirror. So if you've got a problem with looking at yourself naked in the mirror, then that's a training exercise. You have to get out the shower, stand there naked, and say that you're okay. You probably won't be able to say I love my body straight away, but you have to say like affirmations like I'm okay. My body is okay, even if you don't think it is, because you're retraining your brain to say something different. You're like, it's like when you go for a new job, right? And you don't know how to do the job, and someone gives you some training. At first, you might not think, I don't like this. I don't know what the hell I'm doing. I don't like it. This is weird, right? And when you look at yourself in the mirror and you're trying to get used to your own body and like your own body, that's probably what you'll think as well. Like, this is weird. This is something I'm not used to doing. Do I really have to do this? Oh my God. But the more you do the thing and you practice it, the better you get at it, the more you actually start thinking, this is okay. Actually, this is easier than I thought. I can accept this more because you're getting used to it. It's all about retraining our brains to think and feel different things than what we're used to. And it can take years to change. A lot of the time, if you've had things ingrained in you for years, especially about your body, or body shame or anything like that, then it's going to take years to change that. But it is possible because I've changed that about myself, and I can look in myself in the mirror now. I'm the opposite. So it's like I really love my naked body now. I don't love other women's naked bodies, only mine. And I'm like, I really love my naked body now. I'm like, this is really. I go in a blush now. I'm like, this is really. See, I'm just getting too naughty over myself. But I didn't used to be like that. But now I'm like, oh, you look so nice, Sandra. But I praise myself a lot. The mirror will crack on me. No, it won't, Warren. No, it won't. We have to start loving the mirror. Start stroking the mirror. It's quite a funny thing. Like, I have to do exercise for my back and I have to start stroking the wall. I'm like, this is a bit naughty, I'm saying to my physio. I'm like stroking the wall. It's like I'm making love to the wall or something. I didn't actually use those words, but I think that's what she knew I was thinking. But I have to stroke the wall, go up the wall. Woo! She had me yesterday. She had me out in the blooming this is my physiotherapist at my doctor's surgery. She had to open the door. She said, I got to open the door for this one reception. And I want you to put your hands up because I'm trying to get my arm better. I've got an old arm injury. I mean, an old arm injury. And whilst I'm getting my back better, I'm trying to get this arm functioning properly so I can go like round more like this, which I'm doing, but this hurts. But I've got to do it on the wall and I've got like stroke the wall I'm doing. But she said she wants me to go like this. So I had to go in the doorway and start going like this, rubbing my hands up and down the wall. So I'm not used to doing these things. But the whole point is, in order to make any change in our life, in order to change our mindset and the way we feel and think, we have to do things differently that might seem odd, strange, weird. Oh my God, what the hell am I doing? We have to get out of the comfort zone and do things that we don't want to do that's scary. Basically, courage is having the conviction and go ahead and taking action on the things that we're uncomfortable with, but know it's for our own good in the end to get better, to push for our fears. Courage is doing things in spite of fear. That's what I'm trying to say. So we have to do these things in order to improve our life. So any aspects of your asexuality that you don't like, and any things you don't like that you think's to do with your asexuality, discern what is and what isn't actually your asexuality, and then work on these individual things, right? Look for evidence of where this is untrue. This thought is untrue. So some asexuals like being asexual. Why do they like being asexual? Right? Because they can make better decisions about relationships, because they don't spend their time focused on sex. So therefore they can be more productive. They can get a lot of projects done. They can get a lot of artwork or pottery classes, walking, hiking, whatever they like in their life. They can do a lot more things. Now, if you haven't got those things in your life that you like, that's what you have to do. If your life is boring because you're asexual, if your life is meaningless because you're asexual, that's how you feel, and you feel your asexuality is stopping you having an enjoyable life, work out what you can do that you would enjoy that doesn't involve anything that your asexuality would restrict you on. But if you don't, for example, like sex, then you don't like sex, right? I'm not saying you're an asexual that definitely doesn't like sex, because there are some asexuals that are fine with having sex. But if you're an asexual that's fine with having sex, then you're not going to have as much difficulty finding someone for a relationship as someone who's asexual and doesn't like sex, because more and more of the population likes sex. If you're an asexual that is, I can take sex or leave it, but I know that if I did do sex, I would have a more higher prospect of meeting more possible suitors for a relationship, then you can decide to learn the skills of sex. I'm not saying asexuals should do this. I'm just saying if you're an asexual that doesn't care whether you have sex or not, but you think if only you knew how to do sex, then you would increase your chances of finding someone for a relationship, and you don't mind doing that, then learn the skills to have sex. Sex is not something that actually comes naturally to most people, believe it or not. You have to learn those skills. How do you learn those skills? Well, you go courses or read books, or if there's anything on YouTube that's not just a porn thing, then you can like learn how to do it for that. Some people do watch porn to learn how to do sex, but that's unrealistic. I personally wouldn't recommend it because I'm porn repulsed. But some people do. I mean, like one of my exes, I said to him, how do you know how to do some of this stuff? And he's like, oh, because I've watched porn videos. I'm like, because some of the stuff you're doing is quite sexual, even though we weren't having sex. So I'm like, how do you know? Or I might say, don't do that. But I'm like, how do you know, like, to do this type of thing? You know what I mean? So I don't personally like porn, but, you know, some asexuals watch it. And so, you know, if there's certain things that you think that you can't do because your asexuality is stopping you doing it, then is there any way you can do it? Even if you're asexual. Do you see what I mean? Yes, just be yourself and do things you like, even though we don't think of sex. It's cool to that it's cool to do other things, and it's better to do things. Yeah, so basically, if you are asexual that doesn't like sex, you don't want sex, you don't do sex, right? You accept that about yourself. And then you're like, well, what can I do to fill my time that others would usually be filling their time with a relationship and having sex? So if you're single, you're not having sex, right? You need to work out what's missing in your life. What would make your life fulfilled as you are without having sex and without having being in a relationship? Because if you're always thinking, oh, well, people are having sex and they're having relationships, there's something missing. The only thing that's missing is you're not doing things in your life that's fulfilling you for your circumstances. You're looking at other people thinking, oh, they're doing that, I haven't got that. Instead of thinking, what have I got? I've got a lot of time. I've got a lot of time because I'm not having a relationship. So I don't have to phone someone up. I don't have to meet with someone at a certain time. I don't have to lie in a bed and share a bed with someone. I can have a whole bed to myself. I can have all the food to myself. I can go where I want, when I want, do whatever I want. And if you're not leading a fulfilling life by being single, then you need to make sure that you start doing things that fulfill your life. This means taking classes up. This means doing projects at home. This means being in groups of people, either online or offline or both, where you can do activities with other people, or you can socialize with other people, or you can just talk to other people, right? You need to make your life fulfilling as it is as an asexual person, regardless of the fact that you don't have sex and have a relationship. It's actually beneficial, because once someone gets into a relationship, if they're monogamous, for example, they are tied then to that relationship. They're saying, I commit to being with this one person for the rest of my life, right? Which means spending more time with that person, means living more of a life that's going to be compromised to a certain extent, living more of a life where you're going to have to like negotiate things, living more of a joint lifestyle instead of your own. When you're on your own, you can do whatever you want. And if you're not filling your time with things that bring you pleasure, joy, fulfillment, and happiness, you are enabling yourself to miss out on the best years of your life, being stuck, worried about what other people are doing, that you feel you can't do that anyway, because you can't have sex. And so therefore you can't have a sexual relationship that other people are having. This doesn't mean to say you can't find someone for a relationship, but we have to deal with the here and now. If we're not having a relationship and we're single, we can either sit here thinking this is miserable, this is bad, we're not having a relationship, no one loves me, no one wants me, no one cares, and I'm just going to sit here. That is going to make you more miserable, more depressed, more unhappy, and more hating your asexuality. This is what we don't want. We want the opposite. So you need to be asking yourself, okay, what can I do to bring my own happiness to life, not relying on any external sources or factors, no one else? What can I do to make myself happier? Because it's my responsibility to look after myself and make myself happy. When we're born, we're actually given the responsibility, believe it or not, because our caregivers are meant to care for us, aren't they? But we're given the task throughout our whole lives, from the moment we're born, of looking after one person. We have to look after one person, and that's ourselves. We have to look after ourselves from the moment we are born. We are given that task. We are not told, hey, you popped out of your whatever part, and you're now going to have to look after yourself for the rest of your life. But this is actually the task you're given as soon as you breathe breath into the air, right? Because obviously you do have caregivers, but they're not with you 24/7, 365 days a year, not even if you're in a cot, right? We have to struggle in our cots or whatever, or cry or whatever we're doing in there, right? So we have to look after ourselves, and we have to get into the mindset of, how can I bring more joy and happiness to myself and my life? This doesn't mean to say you cut off from everyone else. Part of what might make up your makeup is that you need to actually have communication and connection with other people. So you need to monitor yourself, monitor how good you feel inside on your own, and how much better you feel outside being around people. So you can assess the situation of, like, how much time do I want to spend with other people, and how much time do I want to spend on my own? Does spending time on my own make me happy, or am I more extroverted, or more needing outside connection, other connection? In which case, then I have to go and make these connections myself, and I have to be proactive. I can't be reactive. I can't sit there being passive, because that doesn't get me anywhere in life. I need to go out and make connections with people. I need to talk to people. People are going to reject me, right? But I'm not going to get afraid of rejection, because I know that's part of the process of life. I'm going to accept that some people are going to reject me. Some people are not going to like me. Some people are going to get fed up with me. Some people are going to probably hate me, maybe, or dislike me strongly, or not vibe with me, and that's okay. So if they're not my people, then instead of wasting my time being around people that don't care about me or vibe with me, who don't understand me, I'm then going to try and find other people that do vibe with me, that do understand me. Something happened to me tonight, right? Whereas I was in a networking event, and I was actually shocked that this guy was rude to me, and he said that he didn't like the fact I have high energy. He couldn't stand it, basically. And it was horrible, right? It wasn't a nice experience for me. I know sometimes I am not right for certain people, but we spent time networking, and we were in a group of people, and then we got taken out of the networking group and put into the same networking group. Now, the first time he didn't say anything to me. The second time, just he started telling me that he's a mentor to speakers, and that he could mentor me in how to speak more slowly, because he believes that's what speakers should be, more slow. I, however, said to him, I'm happy with the way I speak. Personally, for me, I noticed even in our first networking session that he talked too slowly for me. As I do talk faster, I actually find that people who talk too slow grate on me, and I don't like it. But I didn't say that to him, because I'm not rude like that. And I appreciate that everyone's got different speaking styles, and some people are like his slower, more paced style, but other people will like a faster paced style. So I don't think that he's wrong or I'm wrong for being different ways in our speaking presentations. But I do think that it's really rude of him to be saying, he said, "Oh, I have to go off the camera because you're like too energetic for me, and I've been up since 4 a.m. and I can't stand this." And it's like, well, I'm just being myself. And anyway, when he went off, the woman stayed behind with me. She said, "Oh, don't take it personally what he said, because he's like that with everyone. He can be weird and rude sometimes. That was very rude the way he was to you, and you're just being yourself, and you're just being your energetic self, and just some people don't resonate with that, you know." But she said, do not take it personally, because he was really rude to you and he shouldn't have behaved like that with you, you know, and it's not your fault or problem that he was up at 4 a.m. in the morning, and your personality isn't naturally energetic, you know, it's just the way you are, and don't change because he said that to you. Jonathan, I tend to watch YouTube videos at 1.5 times speed. Thank you, Jonathan. Yeah, it's nice that you admit that. Some other people do as well, because they can't stand slow speakers. I like fast speakers, so I like someone in the entrepreneur world. There's someone called Tony Robbins. He talks really loud and really fast. He's one of the world's leading coaches, made millions of pounds. I don't make millions of pounds, right? But he is someone I really like and admire as a speaker. Gary Vaynerchuk, he's into marketing, right? He's big in the entrepreneur space. He speaks very fast. He's well known for it. He admits it, and he likes being like that. Russell Brunson, he's the founder, I think it is, of ClickFunnels, founder or CEO of both of ClickFunnels, and he talks fast as well. There are people that do talk fast, and personally, I prefer someone who's got like ups and downs in their voice and who talks faster than someone who talks too slow and you just get bored with it. I personally find it boring, and in one of my old jobs, it was really difficult because I felt bad because I actually ended up interrupting someone, which I know you shouldn't do, and I was really critical of myself over it. But it was a boss I had, and he talked so slowly. He talked so slowly, like this, that I ended up finishing his sentences before he'd even finished them, because he was talking so slow. And I just, oh my God, it was just like, I knew what he was going to say before he said it. And Gary Vaynerchuk's like that, actually. He can start finishing other people's sentences because he said he knows what they're going to say before they finish saying it, because they talk slow for him. So, and he doesn't like wasting time. He's all about being productive and managing some time efficiently and doing things quicker and getting through things quicker than other people do. Not interrupting people is hard when you have ADHD brain, not professionally diagnosed, but still. Yeah, I know that I know that some people who've got ADHD have that. You know, I don't have ADHD, but I'm naturally hyper in my personality, and I do find it difficult if they're talking too slowly. I do find it hard because I can hear them saying something, and I've got, like, you know, the clock's ticking, and I just know what they're going to say before they finished it, and I'm like, it's hard. I had to, you know, I have to try and stop myself sometimes from doing it. But this particular case, by the way, was years ago, where I interrupted an old boss. It was years ago, and I knew I did it. I was consciously aware I did it, and I actually spoke to a counselor about it, and she made me feel worse. She's like, well, that's so bad. That's just so bad. You shouldn't be doing that. It's like, well, I've come to you saying I've got this problem. I'd like you to work on it with me. And instead of her working on it with me, she just gave me basically a lecture of how bad it was and made me feel even more bad. It's like, not good. Yes, another habit is to complete people's sentences before they finish. Yeah, it's a difficult one, isn't it? Like, it can be really hard. And I personally, if someone is talking too slow for me, then it does great on me. It's like, I just want you to speed up. You know what I mean? So I have the opposite problem. If people are talking too slowly, it can, you know, it can really, like, make me feel like something's wrong, it's off kilter for me. But I don't go around saying that to the person, because at the end of the day, a person speaks how they need to speak and how they think's better to speak. But it's interesting when a lot of the world seems to think that slowing down speaking. I do slow down sometimes. Like when I was at Oxford University, then I was a bit slower for the talk, and I can slow down. But then I get excited sometimes and I get enthusiastic and I start talking fast again. You know, if I'm in my relaxed state, my natural talking state, like I'm speaking to someone, in my own home, I usually talk quite fast most of the time. So when I'm on this channel, I just like to be myself. It's like you're in my bedroom with me and I'm just having a chat with you. So I don't tend to hold myself back too much and stop myself from speaking fast. I tend to still speak quite fast because I'm naturally like that and I'm being authentic. And I think you guys would get absolutely bored out of your brain if I started talking too slowly, because I do a long live stream. And a lot of the time, my live streams are over an hour, and you probably don't even realize they're over an hour because I've been talking quite fast. So the time kind of flies by. But if I was talking slow, like that would be more appropriate for a short video, I think. I tend to talk fast, but then sometimes my brain blocks and I just and yeah, it is difficult. I've taught myself to try not to do that, but on this channel I do it more. So if I'm public speaking, like on stage, I probably do it less because I am more conscious of what I'm saying and I am speaking a bit more slower, I think. But when I'm on this channel, I notice something I say quite a lot is, I play my own videos back sometimes to see how I sound, and I do actually like listening to my own voice, which a lot of speakers they don't like hearing their own voice speak, but I actually like hearing my own voice. I will literally sit here, play a whole live stream back to myself that was over an hour, and still enjoy it. And think that was damn good advice, Sandra. You did really well. But there's sometimes I use the word quite a bit. That's the only thing that I'm like, "Oh my god, you said like 5 in like the space of a few minutes, Sandra." That's one thing I get annoyed about myself with sometimes, and then I think, "Oh, well, you better stop that," But the see, I did it again, and the problem is if I focus on trying to stop that, then I'm not flowing in what I'm saying. So I could try to think about not saying that, but then it stops me flowing, ad-libbing. Most people can't ad-lib like I do. I have no script when I'm doing these videos usually. I just ad-lib the whole time. And I have to manage chat at the same time as talking to you, which is a skill in itself. Jonathan, I think you'd ace, pun intended, the Just a Minute talk show. Oh, that sounds quite interesting. Where's the Just a Minute talk show? Warren, I always worry about being rude, and that's your problem. I can't on YouTube, I have to tell you there's one difficulty I have reading people's chat, and that is there's a heart emoji in the way of the last bit of people's sentences. So until the sentence moves up, I can't fully read it. I always worry about being, and I can't read the other bit, me, thou, that's my problem. So I can't actually read, unfortunately, Warren, I can't read all of your comment at the moment. So YouTube, I love the heart you've put in the way, but please, it needs to kind of move a bit over because I can't see what people are saying in chat, not at least on my laptop anyway. So yeah, so going back to what I was talking about asexuality, we have to discern, is it other people's opinions of us on our asexuality that we don't like, or is it the fact we don't like our own asexuality? And similarly with stuff about our own personality and the way we are, do we not like that thing about ourselves, or is it just other people don't like that about ourselves? Because I actually said to this guy earlier, the one that said he's a mentor to speakers, and was telling me he could mentor me. Like, I even asked him to be a mentor. I do public speaking. I've actually been on BBC Radio and got told I can go back whenever I want because I'm such a good speaker. That was off my own bat. I wasn't anyone else. Do you know what I mean? Like, if I wasn't good at speaking, then the BBC wouldn't have told me I can come back whenever I want. I've been a radio presenter for years, a hospital radio presenter for years. That's in my training. In hospital radio, taught to speak to octanes higher, because when you're talking through a microphone, the radio waves change your voice and lower it. So you have to speak higher and do voice projection like this, which is why probably I talk quite high a lot of the time. So Warren said, I always worry about being rude. Me, thou, that's my problem. Did you mean to write thou? THOW? You always worry about being rude to people. Yeah, I do. Like when I finish people's sentences, which I try not to do, or interrupt them, I do worry about being rude, because that is classed as being rude. But I think interrupting, sometimes I don't see that as being rude as finishing their sentences. Because I think if I'm having a conversation with someone and someone's got a point to make about something I'm saying, I actually don't mind if they say, "Oh, oh, I remember that," or "I relate to that." I don't actually mind. It depends how they interrupt me, if someone else interrupts me. Because if someone interrupts me, but it's relevant to what I'm talking about, then they're just going to forget what they need to say if I carry on talking and don't let them interrupt me. So I kind of have a two-way thoughts about interruption. If someone interrupts me, it's got nothing to do with what I'm talking about, then that's annoying. But if someone interrupts me saying, oh yeah, I feel that way too, or that happened to me, then I actually like that because I find that very interactive. But some people might not like that. Jonathan, the Just a Minute talk show was a radio show going for like 50 years where the game is to talk for 60 seconds on a topic without pausing or repeating words. Ah, okay. That's very interesting. I actually went last year, I think it was. I went to, was it last year or, oh, it might have been earlier this year. And I went to, what's it called? There's a speaking thing in the UK. I think it's globally actually. Toastmasters. And I went to a Toastmasters and I got given a topic to talk on, which was impromptu, meaning ad-libbing, which is my favorite thing to do. I actually prefer to talk on a topic without preparing for it. I find it harder to prepare to do a talk in X amount of time. So they just gave us an impromptu and told us to talk about a certain topic, and they gave us a thing, and I just talked, and it was really good. I loved doing it. So I can't even remember what it was on now. I don't know if it was water. I can't remember. It might have been to do with water, and I started talking about aquariums and then said I can't swim, and I think there was a plane involved, and so I don't like flying on a plane either. But I think they gave me like 3 topics to talk about and mix them all together or something. I can't remember what it was. But anyway, I did a good job. I liked it. It was good. So yes, there are benefits of being able to talk faster, and it's quite a skill to be able to ad lib and not actually have a script. I learned how to do that from Andy Harrington, actually, who is a public speaker. He said the best speakers are ones that can talk without any script. So they could go, for example, for a 45-minute presentation without needing to look at anything. They just know their talk. So I trained myself in how to speak without having a script, which has stood me in good stead for this channel because I do that all the time. But now I find it much harder and actually more scary to have to do a talk within a certain given time frame and be restricted on the time and remember specific things specifically, if you know what I mean. So going back to asexuality again, and I'm going back to the original talk topic, is we have to discern what we like about our asexuality or what we don't like, and is what we don't like about asexuality a reflection of our true feelings about ourselves, or is it the sense that other people have made us feel that way because they don't like us being that way, when really, if we think about it and analyze the situation, we're like, oh, I'm happy being that way. Like if I was like the way that person wanted me to be, I wouldn't actually be happy with myself. I'd be more miserable. Right? I would be more miserable if I'm having to live a life where I'm speaking a lot more slower in general, because that would bore me. I don't get bored of my life and myself because I do have a high energetic vibration, even though I'm feeling more exhausted at the moment, actually, and tired because I've got a lot of health problems going on. To be able to speak quite energetically when you're not actually feeling completely well inside is quite a skill. Warren, thanks for an awesome live chat tonight. I've got to go. You're tired. Take care. Oh, lots of love. Yeah, Jonathan was talking about that before, saying about the 60 seconds show. Right, yeah, so I want to make sure we've got the talk of this video live stream. I want us to make sure we got all the different points that I covered earlier. I'm going to go through some of them again to summarize before we conclude this live stream. Right, so first of all, go back to the beginning, right? I'm going to summarize some of this. I'm not going to say everything again, right? But we have to think about our asexuality and we have to make a decision, like what when we say we don't like our asexuality, if we don't like it, we need to be able to reflect on that and say, okay, what things don't I like that's actually my asexuality, and what things do I not like about myself and my life that actually is irrelevant of asexuality? As in, if I removed asexuality from my life and I wasn't, for example, asexual, I would still be like that. And we talked about social anxiety and what we can do in order to take steps to overcome that over a process of mini steps over years. And we talked about, some of those things, right? So go back to the beginning of this video if you haven't seen that, right? We also discussed, like, in terms of like personality traits, lifestyle, and things like that. Like, is it your actual asexuality you don't like? Or is it like the way your life is, your lifestyle, these type of things? So what we're trying to do here is we're trying to pick apart what's actual asexuality that we don't like and what's actually character traits, characteristics of our lives, the way our lives are, regardless of whether we are asexual or if we weren't. It's fundamental to us, right? There's a big difference. And we have to also look at asexuality and say, okay, the aspects of my asexuality that I don't like, is it because I don't actually like those things, or is it because other people don't like those things about me? In other words, they're not accepting my asexuality. And if they accepted my asexuality, I'd feel better. If this is the case, then we're looking for external factors, external people to make us feel good and happy about who we are. And this means we're in people pleaser mode, and we're also having to have validation from external sources, when really what we need to do is validate ourselves. And one way we can do this, obviously, is being with ourselves and praising ourselves, doing positive self-talk. But another thing is connecting with like-minded people who resonate with us, who vibe with us, who are similar-minded, right? Because we do still need human connection. We can't do everything on our own in life and be completely happy sitting in a box, shutting ourselves away from the whole of society, even though other people would have you believe otherwise, right? Some of us, like everyone in life, needs a certain amount of connection to the outside world, to other people, right? We have to look for evidence of our beliefs about our asexuality not being the only reality. So what I mean about this is, if we think our asexuality is stopping us from having a relationship, and there is no way we could possibly get into a relationship or have a relationship because we're asexual, we have to look for evidence of this not being the case in every situation, because there are asexuals I know that are married to other asexuals and very happy. There are asexuals in relationships with sexuals and very happy. Therefore, we know another reality exists, even if we're not experiencing that reality ourselves. Therefore, it means there is a possibility that we could also end up in a relationship with another asexual person, for example, and be happy because other people have done it. So we have to look for evidence. If we've got nothing in our own lives to give us evidence, nothing coming from within ourselves of a different life that's possible, we then have to use external factors in that way to raise awareness in our own minds that actually there is a different reality. There's another possibility that could happen for us in our life. However, we shouldn't be relying on that and thinking and waiting and hoping and praying that that ends up being the way for us and changes things. We need to make change happen for us rather than it happening to us. And we need to do it now in this moment, little by little. So if we are not happy because we're feeling lonely and socially isolated because of our asexuality, we then have to be proactive, not reactive, proactive, and go out and actually make connections with other people. Go into groups, which is going to be very difficult and scary when you've got social anxiety and you're not used to being in these groups. It's going to get you out of your comfort zone. It's not going to be a pleasant, comfortable experience, but we have to get out of our comfort zone to get a different result. If we keep doing the exact same thing, we'll get the same result. So we have to look at other people to use them as examples of a different reality that we could possibly have ourselves, but we also have to be changing our own reality by making ourselves happy. So that if we are single for the rest of our lives, we have to face that might be a possibility. Then how can we make the best use of our life and give ourselves the best life have the most amount of fulfillment in our own lives, regardless of where we're in a relationship or not. So we need to be making sure we're happy as a single person, as a solo artist of life, as I call it, and happy and fulfilled. This means doing projects, taking part in group activities with other people. It means taking up a new hobby, getting involved in new interests, and filling our life up to help us be fulfilled in our lives, so that we don't rely on other people for our happiness. We don't rely on a relationship that might never happen, or it might happen, we don't know. We're actually still having a fulfilling life in this point in time. If we're an asexual person who doesn't like our asexuality, but we don't mind whether we have sex or not, we could be then looking into finding out how to have the skills of doing sex if we're not sex repulsed and we don't mind having sex, in order to, for example, facilitate possibly having better chances of getting into a relationship. If we have communication problems, we need to then work on ourselves to improve our communication to possibly have a relationship. It might not be an asexual problem, it might be a communication issue you've got. So we have to discern what is actually coming from our asexuality that's causing difficulties in our life, and what's actually a lifestyle, a personality trait, a characteristic that is the actual problem. Regardless of whether we're asexual, or even if we weren't, we still have that thing within us, that feeling, that thing that's going on, right? So we need to take action. No one's coming to save us. No one's going to change our life for us. We have to take action and make that change happen for us, right? Rather than change coming along and happening to us, we might have to make our own change in our own life. This means doing scary stuff. This means getting out of a comfort zone. This means doing things that we're not comfortable with. Because the only way we can get comfortable with things that we're not comfortable with at the moment is by expanding our comfort zone, by doing things that make us uncomfortable in order to actually expand it. The only way you expand a comfort zone, rather than it restricting, rather than it being set like this, is to do little bits of things that are difficult and they're out of your comfort zone, in order to push it and expand it more. I hope that makes sense. So if you're struggling with aspects of asexuality, understand that you are going to be asexual for the rest of your life. I know some people change their sexuality, but asexuality isn't a choice. It's not your fault you're asexual. It's not a disease. It's not an illness. There's nothing actually wrong with you, right? So if you've got people in your life that tell you, oh, something's wrong with you, you're weird, blah, 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 just accept the fact that they're not going to be the person for you. They're not going to be that supportive person that you want. This might be friends and close family and relations. They're not going to be the support you want. We have to accept that, which it might be hard to accept. The sooner we accept it, the sooner we can move on to finding people that are more like us, that understand us, that resonate with us, that we resonate with them. And the more that we can seek out friendships, relationships of all different types, don't have to be romantic relationships, that serve us better, that help us in our life better, that gives us the support and understanding that we need. Right? It's all about making incremental changes to actually help ourselves and improve ourselves in our own asexual life, because no one else is responsible for our own life. When we were born, we got tasked with the task of actually looking after ourselves, even if we had caregivers. We're the only ones that's with ourselves 24/7, 365 days a year. So it's better if we can take a lot of action steps, little by little, to improve our own lives and ourselves to a state where we're happy enough, at least, with ourselves and our life, so that we can function properly, we can feel good about our lives, we can feel fulfilled and satisfied as much as possible, and we can start to love our life, regardless of whether we're in a relationship or not, and even if we're asexual. Obviously, talking to some people that love being asexual might be helpful, might not be helpful for everyone. They might feel like, oh, well, I don't feel like that, so they don't understand me. But if you can see the benefits that other people think about your asexuality, and maybe there's something you haven't thought about before, then that might be helpful. There's no sexually transmitted diseases if you're not having any type of sex, no sexual transmitted infections. Some asexuals can think a lot more logically about relationships. You have a lot more time, that if you're not in a relationship, then you have a lot more time on your hands to live your dreams, to find your life purpose, to take part in projects, to take part in things that make you feel excited and invigorated. You can go traveling on your own or with friends. You can spend time by yourself, going where you want, when you want. You can spend lots of money on yourself. You don't have to compromise who you are. You don't have to think about another person. Obviously, you do if you're in a friendship. You have to think about the friend, but usually an intimate relationship is more intense than a friendship, for example. So not always with asexuals though. So you have to think about all these things, right? And consider each one and make notes in your journal. Like literally sit there and think, okay, what do I not like about my asexuality? And work on each one in turn, flipping it over to make it feel better. Like, oh, I can't get a relationship because I'm asexual. Okay. Is that actually true? Is it a true that no one can get a relationship because they're asexual? No, that isn't true. Is it true that you can't get a relationship because you're asexual? Well, maybe, maybe not. Maybe the right asexual person just hasn't found you yet, or you haven't been proactive enough in talking in asexual groups, talking to other asexual groups to make that even a possibility. If you ask yourself and analyze, like how often have you actually made it so there's a situation where someone could possibly get into a relationship with you? Like, who have you talked to on asexual dating sites, on asexual dating apps, in asexual dating groups? Who have you actually spoken to? Who have you got to know? Who have you shared conversations with? Who have you met up with in person? Who have you had video calls with? Who have you had phone calls with? What have you done to possibly make that happen? If you've done nothing, then nothing's going to happen. Nothing can come of nothing. There's Shakespeare, nothing can come of nothing, so speak again. Can't remember if that's from Macbeth or King Lear. But basically, nothing comes of nothing. So if you've taken no action in that direction, you're going to get zero results, right? People think that just things happen like a miracle. It doesn't work like that, right? You have to actively go and do these things. If you're a person that feels socially isolated, but you've made no attempt to actually speak to people in different asexual groups, you've made no attempt to strike up conversations, keep conversations going, which is essential in any communication. If you want to have a relationship with anyone, you have to keep communication going. This means you share a bit about your life, you ask someone a question, they respond, they might give you another question, you answer their question, you share a bit voluntarily of your life. And then, basically you're asking each other questions and you're sharing a bit of your life at the same time. Healthy communication works in this way. You don't just make small talk. You ask the person a question, they answer it. They then should ask you a question, you answer it. They share a bit about their day without you even having to ask. You share a bit about your day without them having to ask. And this is how things flow, right? If you're just going, how was your day? Yeah, fine. That's not proper communication. That's not open communication. Open communication is having questions for each other, taking an active interest in the other person. If you haven't done that, then of course you're limiting your options for making that happen. So, how much of your own circumstances and you not liking your asexuality is your responsibility that you haven't actually taken action on to change? And how much is actually due to circumstances? Right? And we can change our response to our circumstances. We can't necessarily change the circumstances. We can't change the fact we're asexual. We can change our fact of our attitude and mindset towards our asexuality. And we can also change what we're doing about the things that we don't like about asexuality, the situations, the thoughts, the feelings, and emotions. I currently am going to different meetup groups. I'm trying to push myself out of my comfort zone to meet different people and do different things. I joined a meetup group last week for the first time. One guy I happen to know there previously. I don't know him that well, but I've known of him before. He's in the Tech Exeter meetup, but we don't talk usually that much there. Barely at all. May say hi. That's about it. And there was a guy there that I didn't know, and the guy I didn't know was there first with me, so I was speaking to him for ages. I don't know him. I got on really well with him, actually. He reckons he's seen me on a dating site before. I've been on Asexual Cupid years ago, but he said it was okay Cupid, but they're part of the same company. But he said, oh, I recognize you, and he was telling me about my bio and stuff, so he must have looked me up. But that was interesting. So what I'm doing is getting out of my comfort zone, and I'm upfront about my asexuality. I just tell people if they don't like it, they don't like it. Because if I don't be upfront about it, then I find 6 months down the road, I start talking about it and people are like offhand with me, then how can I blame them when I haven't been upfront? Do you know what I mean? How can I say, "Oh, well, I've wasted 6 months of my time here because now people are offhand with me. I feel awkward. It doesn't feel good, and I thought these people were my friends." It's just to be upfront. If someone's gonna reject you, let them reject you quickly, get it out of the way, and then move on to a better group or one you resonate with more, one that vibes with you more, one that's more understanding. The sooner we get the wrong people out of our lives, the sooner we can get the more suitable people for us in our lives, right? If we don't like the fact that we can't experience sexual attraction, think about other attractions we can experience and do experience. Asexuality doesn't mean to say that you don't experience attraction, full stop. You can still experience other types of attractions. You might not experience many other types of attractions, but you might do. So you can explore that. Like, find out what sensual attraction is, find out what um aesthetic attraction is, clothes attraction. Maybe you're romantically attracted, maybe you're not. You don't have to be romantically attracted to someone to be in a relationship, for example, but you could just want a really close friendship. So whatever is the obstacle or challenge you're facing with your asexuality, much of it can be overcome or managed better by yourself. I mentioned earlier about the fact of my hyperromanticism. That's a part of who I am, but I can manage it better by trying not to get too overwhelmed and overpowered by my own romantic feelings for a guy and not see the truth of what he is. So instead of like fantasizing or romanticizing what he might be or put him on a pedestal, I can take note of the fact that I'm a hyper romantic and think, okay, this is a new connection. Right now, I might be feeling romantic towards a guy. And I think, okay, just because I'm feeling romantic towards him doesn't mean to say he's a good guy for me. I might be aesthetically attracted to him. Just because I'm aesthetically attracted to him doesn't make him a good guy for me. And instead of thinking, oh, I know this, that, and the other about him, think, oh, I don't hardly know anything about him. I've just met him. He said a few words to me. I don't know this guy. Instead of the usual, oh my God, I think he's really good for me. I really like what I see in him. He's amazing, blah, blah, blah. Because when someone is talking to us, first of all, they're only showing you usually the best bits of themselves to us, right? So I have to learn to manage my hyperromanticism better so I don't keep falling for the wrong guys and get too attached to them too quickly. That's something that I have to work on to manage. That's hard work because I'm naturally a hyperromantic. If you're naturally an asexual person, you can't help but being asexual, but you have to either change the things about your asexuality that you don't like. For example, you feel socially isolated, and I've explained what you can do to help yourself with that. But we also have to manage our feelings and emotions about our asexuality and how we live our life because of it. Okay, manage our expectations. So if like, some people are not going to like your asexuality, that's okay. If they don't like it, you either choose to not talk to them, you can choose to ignore them, or you can choose to just walk away, think that's okay, they don't like my asexuality, I'll find people who do. Right? So we have choices in life and decisions to make, and we have responsibilities towards ourselves. If our life's unhappy because of our asexuality, I would argue that it's probably not just because of our asexuality. It's probably other things that are going on in life, such as the fact that we have a lack of friends or a lack of people to go out with socially. We feel socially isolated and excluded. We feel like an alien, and a number of other things. So we need to have plans to put in place, small incremental plans, small steps to rectify these situations. And this means, as I've said, getting out of our comfort zones, I should say, and going to different meetups where we don't know anyone, online or in person. It's going to be nerve-wracking at first, but we need to do these things. And yeah, I hope this has been helpful for you. And make sure you make the list of the things that people do like about asexuality. That I've actually got 12 benefits of asexuality on my asexualise.com blog. You can just Google it, like 12 benefits of asexuality, asexualise.com, and it should come up if you're getting a bit stuck on that. But there are lots of benefits, we don't have to work to social conventions and norms. We can be different and be proud of it. You know, we don't have to get involved with sticky sex situations if we're sex repulsed asexual, for example. We have a lot more time to do other things, etc. So anyway, if you like this video, if you've got any value from it, please give it a thumbs up. Don't forget to subscribe if you haven't already. Hit the bell icon and share this video with anyone you think may benefit from it. Thank you, Jonathan and Warren, for both being excellent in chat tonight. I love you lots and lots, everyone. Take care, and I'll see you soon on the next video live stream. Don't forget to grab a copy of Diary Confessions of a Hyperromantic Asexual, 78 Life Lessons to Ace Your Life and Asexual Perspectives bestsellers on Amazon. Go and get those now. And also, if you like superhero books, go and grab a copy of my Fibromyalgia Self-Help Handbook. Lots of love to you. I'll see you soon next video live stream. Take care. And if you haven't seen all this video, go and watch it from the beginning. Have fun. Bye.